just getting into it. Welcome to the Lancaster City Council meeting.
Lancaster County.
Well,
better watch it, Chuck.
My ambition is taking over here. Yeah. City Clerk.
Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Molly.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Underwood Jacobs.
Present.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Who's doing the invocation? Is that you, Darrell?
I just figured you was going to call on me.
I was.
He's here.
Well, you got the most training.
Hey, let's see if it works. Father, we thank you right now. We ask right now for wisdom, clarity. We ask right now for stillness of mind. God, that we may make the decisions that we need to make to continue to make this city a great nation, great city and a great nation. We pray right now, God, that you will allow us to deal in impartiality, that you will allow us to deal with, God, all of the problems that have arisen. Give our leaders, our mayor and our city council and our great city leaders, God, the knowledge and wisdom on how to accomplish the great task at hand. All these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You want to do the pledge?
Sure. Please face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Manager, anything to be removed?
No, sir.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Consent calendar. Anything to pull? Any speaker cards?
No speaker cards. Move to approve the consent calendar as currently comprised.
I'll second.
Let's vote. And it passes unanimously. Joint public hearing. The joint public hearing is now open. Do we have a speaker card?
No speaker cards.
Do you want to waive the staff report?
No.
No?
Not on a budget.
Just a thought.
You know, I appreciate the confidence that you have in the team.
I do. I have absolute supreme confidence in our city staff. And the moment I don't, we'll have a different city staff.
We understand the relationship. Well, tonight I am honored and pleased to present the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. As you know, every year we present a budget to you. This comes as a long process for us, as well as you as a council who've been not only involved in this from the beginning, but it's a process we go throughout the year. And this year, the budget's going to be a little bit different. This year, this budget presentation is going to blow your head right off your shoulders. Oh, it didn't work as well as I thought it was going to work. But this budget is an opportunity to stir things up a little bit. And when we put this budget together, we put it together with the strategy that we're implementing here with your leadership is strategic technology, innovation, and resilience. When we look at the budget, we try to take into the challenges that we face and see it as a business tool to identify how to move forward and how to proceed in an efficient and effective manner. We look as an opportunity to look at history, not only with societies such as Angkor Wat, Stockton, and Detroit, all of these large civilizations and communities that were impacted by being less resilient than necessary. Angkor Wat, of course, as we know, is a large civilization that is now ruins as a result of the changing of their transportation system that was the use of waterways. Detroit relied upon the automobile industry to subsidize them, and Stockton, a boom and bust community, relied on the housing booms to move them through their financial success. We are no different than those. We have to, as a business, identify what those constraints are and what those challenges are for us and use these tools from a budget and use these programs to implement, to mitigate against that, to assure that we have the resilience going long term. This budget year, you'll be seeing an analysis of our property tax and sales tax on a locational basis from a geospatial aspect, so that we can understand what our business is. Oftentimes, if we're in the business of building widgets and we're building them for $10 and selling them for $8, obviously we're not going to be successful as a business. We have to do that as a city as well. This budget year, we're going to be spending a significant amount of time identifying what our widgets cost and how to make sure that we sell them in an appropriate way. This image here is it's the beginning phase of an analysis of, if you look at that, that's the city limits, and it's on a 3D scale, so you can kind of see the spikes as relates to that's property values. When you look at that, obviously the big purple spike in the middle is what we want to see more of, right? That means that we have a greatest return of property tax for the lowest amount of infrastructure associated with that, and that's from a density perspective. That spike is the 3-story movie theater downtown. Oftentimes when we ask this question, we're talking to the public or staff, they say, is that the Walmart, or that's the Auto Mall, or that's anything. It's shocking to say that is the 3-story movie theater downtown. But that's the kind of efficiency we're looking for from a budget perspective, and understanding that those types of businesses create value, where those that are external that may have some red or some yellow are some of the less valuable properties to us. But we have to understand our business, and in this budget we're going to be doing that and sharing that with you. Part of that is understanding what the value of a house is. And if you look at our average house value is about $286,000. Of that, the property tax is 1% of the assessed value, which is about $2,800. And Lancaster receives 7% of that 1%. So what that means is, for that house to provide them sheriff service, code enforcement, streets, roads, all the services necessary to provide them from a property tax perspective, we're receiving $200 a year. Right? That's obviously a challenge. And until you break those numbers down, until you understand that business, you don't understand the challenges we face. And this is what we try to address in some of these programs we're going to be sharing.
So who's getting the rest of it?
Well, we'll tell you. Well, the rest is Chuck. Yeah. Chuck, the fire department, the county, and some others, and the schools. But nonetheless, we end up with $200 of that. Comparatively, and I know we don't like comparing cities, but our citizens are no different than other citizens as well. They expect the same level of service. They expect their response times to be the same. They expect their roads to be maintained at the same level. They expect their neighborhoods to be as clean and as pretty as anywhere else. Yet we're doing with $200, and other communities are doing with far more.
Well, how does that happen?
The percentage is determined at the time of annexation and the time at which the taxes were negotiated. Or not annexation, I'm sorry, at the time of incorporation. So L.A. incorporated obviously far greater than we did. There were less people eating off of that pie. When Lancaster incorporated, there were more people already in that pie, so you had to negotiate yourself that slice. Our founding fathers negotiated 7%. Los Angeles' founding fathers negotiated 26%, Burbank 18%, and so on. So if you look at the comparison, if we were in a race, our starting point in that race is far behind others, yet our citizens expect the same thing. So these are kind of the business aspects of what we do and the challenges we face.
There has to be a lawsuit there.
State law. No. And also, the other thing that affects the amount that each of those cities get is their average property value as well. It's the percentage of the property value, because the taxes are a percentage of the value of the property.
Couldn't we do it at 60-some% of our citizens are in a protected class? Couldn't we approach it that way?
The allocation of tax revenue is based on date of incorporation per state law. That is the state law. I will think about it.
And let's talk about it later.
Okay.
I think there's something there.
Okay.
And these numbers here are based on the average home cost in those cities. So
we might be able to get another 3%. I mean, everything's a negotiation once you sue them, right?
Yeah. The good news of this story, though, is what I guess the point of this is this causes us to be a little more creative, right? Is if we were a community that had $1,700 a unit, we might be not doing things like Lancaster Choice Energy. We may not be doing the things like Wi-Fi. We may not be doing things like these business models that we're talking about. So the strategy is understanding this business and understanding the fact that we need to mitigate against these challenges, right? We have some additional challenges that we've identified from a sales tax perspective. If you look at our two major revenue streams in this budget, 60% of that revenue comes from sales tax and property tax. We talked about property tax already. When we talk about sales tax, you look at the challenges we face with sales tax, is 40% of that revenue is automobile-based or automobile-related. So that's the sale of gasoline and the sale of vehicles. So if you look at the future, and if we believe we can predict the future, we believe that all cars will be electric, right? And I believe, I don't know that everybody believes, that we'll all be driven around in an autonomous vehicle. It'll either be shared or it'll be a shared economy, which then lowers our sales of vehicles potentially and or lowers our sales of gasoline. If you knew that every car was going to be powered by electricity, what business should you want to be in? Selling electricity. Well, we've already solved that problem. As it relates to the mitigating effects of this, we have to understand that these are challenges. Not necessarily that's going to happen this year. This isn't a story that's going to happen in this budget year. This is a strategy to try to mitigate against these challenges in the future. And that's where STIR comes in, is understanding we need to be strategic, we need to include or identify technology, innovation to be resilient. What those mean, technologies, anticipating integration of cutting-edge technology and future technologies and their impact. So it's one thing is utilizing these technologies as opportunities for the city, but also understanding that these are challenges as well. As these technologies improve and increase, that will impact the future of Lancaster. As Amazon develops a drone to deliver your goods and your toothpaste to your front door, that's going to impact Lancaster and our sales tax. As we identify ways to have cars driven for you, that's going to impact how many cars you're going to sell in Lancaster. Those are impacts we have to understand. So it's not only creating opportunities with that technology, it's also understanding the impacts of that technology. Innovation is incorporating new ideas, approaches, and techniques to build a stronger city. We have to be innovative, and you guys are all in those meetings that we're having. The stuff we're doing here, I am personally, and I know the staff is very proud of what we're doing. It's innovative, it's different, and it's frankly really cool. And those are budgeted and approved in this budget. And of course, resilience. Maximizing available resources to generate the greatest value, right? We have to understand our business models so that when we develop lands, when we create opportunities, that we understand that those are long-term value propositions in the future. With this, we've identified some guiding principles as an organization to move us forward as well. And there's 13 of them. I won't go over every one of them, but I'll highlight a couple of them. It's putting people first, right? We have to understand that we are a city of people, and those people have expectations regardless of what revenue we receive, regardless of what projects we do. Those people, we've got to put them first in design. We've got to put them first in safety, and this budget does that. We want to be ambassadors for Lancaster. And as city staff and as city residents, we have the responsibility to do that. We have the responsibility to tell the good story, right? We have enough people, whether it be the media or detractors telling the bad story, we have an obligation to tell the good story. Build resiliency and adaptation, right? We have to understand that we build resiliency. It doesn't happen. We have to build that. And create community brand and neighborhood identity, right? Identifying these locations and building upon them, and this budget does that. As it relates to the priority and some of the projects we'll be implementing, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda Perez to share some of those. And as we progress, I think a lot of these projects that we see on here are going to help not only improve our technology innovation, but also cause us to be far more resilient than we are today.
Thank you, Jason. Good evening, Mayor Powell.
Wait a minute.
Excuse me.
So if there was a merger with one of our neighboring cities, would we be able to get 10% instead of 7%?
At that time, if we were merging with a neighboring city, then we would be going back through the LAFCO process, and we would be in negotiations, yes, with regard to the amount of the property tax we would capture. That is a time that that could be addressed, yes.
So a negotiation implies that you have equal bargaining power, do we?
I'd rather not have this conversation publicly.
Fair enough. Okay. It's a secret. All right.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Christ, and Council. With the changing face of retail and the autonomous technology taking our world by storm that Jason mentioned, the City of Lancaster obviously is always looking to stay far ahead of that curve and we want to create new revenue sources and approach each challenge as an opportunity. In fiscal year 1920, that budget is no different. Jason's laid out our challenges pretty clearly, and in true Lancaster fashion, I'm here to talk about the creative ways that we're going to combat those challenges and win against those challenges, obviously with council's priorities always in mind. In the forthcoming budget, we've accounted for the potential creation of a hybrid policing model. This is something that we are currently exploring, and you're very well aware of this. A unique approach to increasing the safety of our citizens, the Public Safety Department will expand to augment our sworn officers to more effectively and efficiently allow our deputies to focus on more serious crimes. This augmented police force will focus on quality of life issues. And though we've yet to approve it, we have made considerations in the forthcoming budget, should you approve it once you see the plan in the fall, to accommodate that consideration. This year, we'll also see the fiber network come to fruition. The fiber is in the ground, the connections have all been made, and now we have the opportunity to expand our services through the implementation of community-wide Wi-Fi, as well as 5G. We continue to value partnerships in these endeavors. We don't do this by ourselves. And we're working with providers who are set to begin the installation of co-locatable infrastructure in just a month here, I believe in July, which not only will improve our cellular coverage for our community, but also increase safety with the installation of streetlight cameras, which helps also, again, mitigate those long-term concerns created by the volatility of our traditional revenue streams.
Slow down. Hey, slow down and louder. Okay. Thank you.
I can't reach this thing. I'm short.
Yeah.
Other power-related opportunities also exist in our with the recently approved municipal utility and the building of the first of its kind advanced energy community using microgrid technology. We'll also continue to partner with cutting-edge technological leaders to maximize additional emerging revenue opportunities that we don't even know today.
What does microgrid technology mean?
So microgrid technology will allow us, and we're looking at doing this with some of our H&R projects, our housing projects, to be completely self-contained, providing power and service all within that complex itself.
Okay, good.
And we've got a grant, a $5 million grant to do that, so we're going to talk about that here in the next few weeks.
Okay.
We're also looking in partnership with economic sustainability professionals who promote a new way of thinking to encourage densification in the core. We've talked about this quite a bit. We want to most effectively and efficiently use our land, and urban sprawl is no longer what we're focused on. We want to focus on the core. That goes back to that spike that Jason was talking about in the slide a little previous. So we'll continue to pursue those aggressively. Medical Main Street will also see the completion of its master plan and EIR this year. In partnership with AV Hospital and a private developer, the vision for this area continues to progress. Parkway Village, that's previously known as the Armagosa Creek Vision. It was originally designated in the early 2000s for big box development. It's going to go back and do a specific plan review, and basically we're looking to change that into a mixed-use development and start addressing that missing middle housing that we keep talking about, that sort of market rate townhome and apartment complex that we don't have right now, especially as the aerospace firms and manufacturers such as BYD continue to populate in the area. We also anticipate some hotel development to continue in the upcoming year with at least two on the horizon. And our most proud moment probably in this year's budget is that Lancaster Choice Energy continues to explore making a difference in our community and celebrates a $4.5 million or 11% reserve this year. After all the bills are paid, $4.5 million remains in that reserve. But they're not stopping there. In 1920, we're going to look at an expanded electrification program to include a vehicle purchase incentive program, installation of charging stations throughout the city, and also implementation of the electric lawnmower replacement plan that we've talked about and various other ongoing efforts. Yeah, it's not working. How'd you get that to work? I know. This button isn't working. There it goes. Thank you. So we're excited to create new, and I've just talked about that. But as stewards of our community facilities, I think it's also important to maintain our existing infrastructure. The $15 million bond approved in late 2018 continues the over $4.5 million investment that we've made in the past 5 years in the modernization of our facilities. In 1920, we're going to be investing in various park improvements, Most notably, the skate park will finish in October, as well as a general facelift to Jane Reynolds Park that will include playground investment, building rehab, restroom rehab, to prepare it really for what we believe will be a huge gathering place that's in a currently underutilized facility at this time. LMD revitalization, for those of you that don't know in the audience potentially, this is our landscape maintenance districts. They will also take center stage as we begin to systematically rehabilitate some of our oldest medians with fresh, drought-tolerant landscaping and a consideration for increased safety, similar to what you see in American Heroes Park and also along the frontage on 10th Street West at Sergeant Steve Owen Memorial Park. We've done some different planting there that kind of opens up visibility. Major arterial and residential roadway improvements will kick off in the spring of 2020 with final approval of that $50 million bond, road bond. The investment will speed up Revive 25 exponentially, and it will actually result in 3 years with us touching 90% of the core of our city streets. And we define that as the core as 20th East to 30th West, Avenue H to Avenue M. 90% of those will be touched by 2022, 3 short years away. Freeway interchange improvements, those are currently in various phases of design and will begin with Avenue J Street improvements in early 2020, followed by on and off ramps at Avenue J, K, and M. And then last but not least, our impact initiative, which we've talked a little bit about as well. That team is going to be really focused on addressing general city beautification goals. And what does that mean? They're dedicated to creating and implementing a holistic and coordinated approach alongside community partners and impact interns that work together to address everything from housing needs to illegal dumping, graffiti and code enforcement issues, to telemedicine and proactive healthcare through the reimagining of our wellness and impact homes, and all of this with the goal of increasing our civic pride and citizen engagement, be they young or old. So that's a lot. Covers a lot of things, but the 1920 budget was built with all of these priorities and challenges in mind, and I would now like to turn it over to Pam, our finance director, to brief you on the specifics of the budget that supports all of these initiatives and that will be up for your approval at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Rhonda. So they get the exciting part where they get to talk about all the projects and stuff, and then they put me up here to talk about the numbers. So mine is not quite as, exciting, but nonetheless, we're going to make do and get through this presentation and tell you about how we're going to fund all of this stuff.
Creative slide.
Thank you. Before we get into the numbers, I would like to talk a little bit about the process and acknowledge those who helped to put the budget together. So obviously, we have a team that puts this budget before you. It starts with council input and input from the citizens of Lancaster, and then city staff goes to work and puts all of this stuff in action. I'd like to recognize Jason and Rhonda, who are the point people on putting the budget together. The person in the finance department that had the largest contribution to the budget is Michael Allen, who's here with us tonight. He worked through all of the numbers, put the fancy slides together, and had a hand in inputting putting the budget book itself together. Also, we have Danielle Widener in our department, who also put the book together and incorporated all of the written documentation. After them, we also have input from all of the budget officers. We have from the city manager's office, Anita Williams, Britt Averett, Kathleen Abayed, Shannon Dow, Jocelyn Corbett, and then from ACS, or Administrative Services, is Melissa Varela. We have from Development Services, Robin Rector. From Parks, Recreation, and Arts, Nicole Jones. And then from Public Safety, Tracy Stewart. So all of these people have had a hand, and I would like to thank them publicly for getting us to this point. So the budget that we are proposing is $209.3 million. And as you can see, the capital improvement projects portion is the largest component of that budget at $46 million. Right behind that is personnel. That's the second largest component. We have almost $39 million in funding for 249 full-time staff positions, as well as an additional $4 million for part-time staff.
What's the average?
The average department, or?
No, the average payroll for the average.
Our average payroll is about gross about between 800 and 900,000 every 2 weeks.
Per individual full-time employee, what does it average out at?
120. I'm looking to our human resources manager. It's about 120,000 per employee would be the average, with combined with benefits and salary.
Okay. So if we were to take the lowest paid full-time employee, I don't want it now, but I want it sometime in the next week or so. I want to know what the multiple is for our highest paid employee. All right?
Okay.
Just want to look at the distribution.
Okay.
Okay.
And then another large component of the budget is, as Rhonda made reference to, the Lancaster Choice Energy as well as Lancaster Power Authority. Together, those comprise $40.8 million of the budget total. The general fund is the largest unrestricted fund and is what we use to fund various services for citizens. The revenue that comes into the general fund is in the form of property taxes, sales tax, fees for services, licenses and permits, and development fees, to name a few. Jason made reference to the property tax. The portion that comes to the city is $22.7 million for the 1920 year, followed closely by sales tax, which we predict to be $21.1 million. There's also in the tax component transient occupancy tax, also called a hotel tax. That is approximately $2.3 million, and we like that source because obviously it comes from people living outside of the area. They pay that upon visiting our hotels.
Can we, where did our city manager go? Oh, there you are, okay. I'd like to proceed with putting it on the ballot to equalize the room tax with Palmdale. I mean,
Your direction, we can put that on there.
Aren't we underneath it?
Yes. Palmdale's thinking 9%, we're at 7%.
That's never made any sense to me. I mean, unless somebody can explain to me why that's a good thing, I'd like to get that on the ballot.
You should probably have a conversation with Destination Lancaster before we make that decision.
Well, I want everybody that has some input to come and give it to us, but I don't want any more time to go by. If we decide we want to do it, let's have it for the April ballot. Okay?
Got it.
Does that make sense? All right.
Excuse me, I do have a question too. I'm wondering, in regards to online sales, how does that come back to the city?
If we can provide evidence that the sale is transacted within city limits, then it comes back to us. If it is not determined where the sale actually takes place, that was kind of like the card lock situation or SC Fuels, where the point of sale was in city limits. If that's not to be determined, it goes to the county, and then we get a pro rata share of that based on our population within the county. So we do get a share of all of the internet sales that are reported within the state via the county. Prorated share based on our population comes back to us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So the proposed general fund.
Wait a minute. Is there any other city in the county that gets less than we do?
I do not know. As far as the property taxes or the internet sales
the
tax?
share of the property tax.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
Yeah, we just saw in the presentation, there was a city there that had less.
Yeah, it was Diamond Bar. Diamond Bar gets 5%.
Dollars are higher because
Their dollars are higher because their land value is higher. Yeah.
That's an upscale place, right?
Diamond Bar, yeah,
Well,
they get 5%.
we've seen a demographic shift since the time they negotiated that, right? I mean, we didn't need the services at the time we negotiated 7%. Now we clearly do, right?
Changing. There's a change.
Can we ask to renegotiate?
I'm going to have to go back and look at the documentation on it. I can't answer that as I sit here today. I can't.
Case, though.
But I can dig into it and get back to you.
I would think
If we can't, it would seem to me that would be an unconscionable provision of the contract.
I will get back to you on it.
Good, thank you. All right, I'm sorry.
No
It's
worries.
ADD, you just got to live with it. I do.
When it's that big of a number and that big of an impact, it's something that, really doesn't make sense. And so I can understand it coming back to you over and over again. Why are we getting such a small percentage?
I hate getting screwed, and they are. They're screwing us out of our fair share,
Right.
right?
Yeah, all about time. And time has changed.
Right.
Things have changed. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
Let's man the ramparts.
You've never been shy about shaking things up or stirring things up. So the proposed general fund budget totals $81.5 million. And as I mentioned, it supports services throughout the city, in particular public safety, which represents 36% of the general fund budget, and it includes the largest sheriff's contract in LA County. That's valued at almost $28 million for this coming fiscal year, and animal control we're predicting at $1.3 million. So that's another large chunk of money that goes for county services. Another large department that is paid most by general fund is Parks, Recreation, and Arts, and they cover all of the events that we have throughout the city that the residents benefit from, as well as our parks, our facilities, our fields, and so that total is about $15.6 million. So at the end of the day, we predict revenue expenditures and a budget surplus for the general fund. We predict it to be about $400,000. The general fund budget is balanced, and we actually predict by the end of the 1920 fiscal year a 30% reserve balance, which is about the same as what we had last fiscal year as well. So we're able to maintain that. The last component that I'd like to talk about is the capital improvement budget at $46 million.
Before you do that, I want you to talk to me about the reserves.
Mm-hmm.
How do they decide what is a reasonable reserve for a city to have?
We have it set by council policy to be a minimum of 10% operating reserve, so 10%
Wait a minute,
of our
those are the guys that
expenditures.
negotiated 7% instead of 10%. I don't want to rely on that.
True. Because we don't feel that that's enough, we have another 10% that is kind of an emergency reserve, so that if one of our funding sources was delayed or something like that, we would have enough to comfortably continue to operate.
I guess what I'm asking you, is there a standard that for a city our size, it's generally recognized that this is a safe reserve to have? And if there is a standard, where is it?
It's pretty much around 20%. That would be a comfortable range. So 30% is definitely well above what is required. It does give us discretionary funds. So, if we wanted to move quickly on one of these new ideas, we would have the reserves that could be appropriated for that purpose.
So we're ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
All right, good.
Yep.
Which now brings me to this other issue. It's my understanding that Palmdale's budget is not, that if you were to do a 5-year projection for both cities, there's disaster ahead. Is that correct?
I would hate to predict
No, you can
for another
say
city, but
this is not a discussion based on bias. This is a discussion I want to have based upon reality. Is that the reality?
if I were finance director there, I would be concerned, yes.
So shouldn't we be opening a discussion with them that if financial disaster is looming in the next 5 years, and we could present a way of coming together and correcting that imbalance that is fair to everybody involved, shouldn't we be talking about that? I guess Jason.
Same Pam there. Those are definitely opportunities. Those are decisions made by the city councils of respective cities, but knowing the relationship we have very capable people there on both sides that would be able to put that together if necessary.
I would like you to open those discussions. Unless they see a way out of this. But what I'm hearing is that they don't see a way out of this. Perhaps now's the time we start talking.
I'll make that connection.
Okay. It also is a way to have a more equitable distribution from what Chuck takes. I'm very disappointed in you, Chuck.
Welcome, Chuck.
So included in the $46 million capital improvement budget, we have many of the projects that Rhonda spoke of. We have the continuation of the interchange project, and continuation of Medical Main Street. We have funds in there for Parkway Village, as well as the citywide infrastructure improvements, the $15 million bond funds. Those are all programmed into this capital improvement budget. As a separate item, not included in the slide, we do have before you for your consideration approval of the CCEA, so the California Choice Energy Authority budget as well. That has been distributed to all the member cities for them to review, and that totals about $5.5 million. So unless you have any questions, I'll turn it back over to Jason for his closing.
Well, how good do you feel about this?
I feel very comfortable. I think we're in an excellent financial position, and as Jason mentioned, some of our long-standing revenue streams, we're only improving upon those by venturing into different areas. So I'm quite comfortable that we can handle the challenges ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we'd be happy to answer any questions. That concludes the budget presentation, and I echo Pam's effort that we are in very good shape and looking forward to the future and hopefully creating more revenue opportunities and services for our citizens.
What I hope to achieve in these meetings is an open discussion so that the public is clearly aware of everything that's happened, and that's valley-wide. And just so you're clear on what my motivation is I don't want these conversations to happen in the back rooms. I think we should have them here. You know, if I don't see how Lancaster does well if Palmdale is doing badly. I just don't see how that can happen because of the bleed over is just too great. And if we're seeing something on the horizon, we should be acting. And so I'd like a public discussion opened up if they're amenable to it. But to act like this isn't going to be a serious problem for us is naive, I think. I mean, do you disagree?
I don't disagree. I'm not familiar with their budget, but I understand your concern.
Good. Better soon than later.
Absolutely.
Okay. But as far as how you guys are doing, that's amazing. I'm incredibly proud of it. I'm sure the rest of the council is too. It's every year is better and better and better. And I had no idea that you were operating under such an extreme disadvantage with Chuck.
In so many ways.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just thank you. Thank you for what you guys have done. I know Chuck takes a lot of your money, but I think this is just you guys have done just outstanding work for what they do give you.
Great. Thank you.
And are we moving along the assisted living?
Yes, all those the public-private partnerships, not only assisted living, hotels are included in the budget and the strategy, as well as any new business ventures, Wi-Fi, telecommunication services. Along those lines are all budgeted and anticipated in this budget.
Okay. The 5G, the best I'm able to get from that is it's just faster. But it seems to me that if we had a consultant involved with the local businesses to show them how it could be much more profitable, we should be looking at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's two prospects. One is the 5G component of it, which makes our cell phones faster, which generates a revenue stream. But it's also the actual high-speed broadband internet delivery to your home that is included in this budget that not only provides a significant revenue opportunity, but it increases service as well as the quality of the speed. So there's a combination. It's not necessarily 5G, it's broadband, but through the systems and the technology we're placing, both of those items exist as a revenue stream to the city as a result of our fiber network that was installed.
Will Ken still be able to use his flip phone?
Marvin doesn't think that the flip phones will be running on 5G, but I think they will, because my current phone runs on 4G.
Do you remember a few months ago we were having lunch and the restaurant didn't know how to use the internet to get their takeout orders? Right? And I wonder how many more businesses out there aren't taking advantage of the technology that the city has to offer. And I would like to see us have a more focused way of helping those businesses.
Right. Well, I think the opportunity exists, and I think you're absolutely right, is just as we did with our energy. If you're not providing energy services, it's hard to justify those types of energy efficiency and things that we're doing now. Since we're in the energy business, it's a natural progression to start looking at electrification of the fleet, looking at efficiency, energy efficiency, looking at lawnmowers, things of that nature. Once we're in the telecommunication business, it's going to be far easier, and we'll have a revenue stream necessary for our customers to provide that level of service. I mean, it keeps adding layers to the level of services we can provide when you add layers of revenue. So I think that opportunity truly exists, not only in the potential subsidy of services or the saving of costs for the customer, but also the additional value added as it relates to our services provided that a traditional telecommunications company may not provide.
Okay. All right, good. Let's keep moving in that direction.
Absolutely.
Good.
Speaker
Need
cards?
to close the hearing.
Oh, I got to close the public hearing.
No speaker cards?
None.
Okay.
That's amazing. No speaker cards.
Michael's not here.
Thank you, Mayor. Council.
The stuff we get speaker cards for, and there's no speaker cards for this, the budget. All right. Public hearing's closed.
Motion to approve JPH 1.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. And it passes unanimously. Okay, public hearing item 1.
No speaker cards.
You want to, Jeff, do you have a burning desire to present anyway? Okay. We'll move. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve PH 1.
I'll second.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Passes. PH 2, any speaker?
No speaker cards.
Let's waive the staff report.
Motion to adopt Resolution 19-32.
Second that. Let's vote. It passes unanimously.
No speaker cards.
Public hearing.
PH 3.
You have to open the
Open
public
and
hearing.
close it.
Oh, I
Open
gotta
and close the public hearing, please.
open the public hearing. Close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Motion to adopt Resolution 1933.
I'll second.
Let's vote. It passes unanimously. Council reports. Anything?
Nothing new from the ABTA. They did open the Mojave routes. You had requested that. They are open now.
What's the count?
We don't have a full bus yet, but they're working on it. They're learning to it, so we're publicizing it more. People are word of mouth and the internet's getting around, so it's we're working with it. We'll soon have a full bus, and then we'll add another one and whatever it takes to service them.
Good. So, are they moving Virgin Galactic to New Mexico?
To Arizona.
Everybody going?
Well, the majority of it is.
Is that right?
I believe it's New Mexico, but yes, I believe they're moving operations to New Mexico.
See, brings credence to what you said about Palmdale. People just don't. I mean, that's going to be there's jobs, fairly good paying jobs. We're going to lose them. That's no bueno.
What about Kinkishiro? However you say that.
Kinkishario.
Yeah. Are they closing up?
I'm not familiar. I know who they are, but don't know what their plans are.
If there's going to be a projected unemployment problem, we need to know it. Can we look into that? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. No action on the Housing Authority or the Financing Authority or the Power Authority or their successor agency. City Manager, any announcements?
I do. I have a sad announcement for us, but a happy one for our city clerk. Today is her last city council meeting that she'll be joining us. She is moving on to greener pastures, and we are excited for her, but also she is not only a personal friend and a friend to all of us, but she's been a fantastic and amazing city clerk, and we're going to miss her. But at the same token, we understand that there's opportunities abound for her and her family, and we're excited for those. So this will be her last meeting. So
could we leave her position open for a couple months, and if she decides she just hates it there, she could come back?
I don't know that I have the opportunity to share her plans, but she's going to a very nice place.
But that doesn't mean the people are nice. I mean,
I might be able to handle the people at the place.
We're going to miss you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Is it your boss? Was he not a good boss?
It's time. It's time. It's a perfect opportunity, and the timing wasn't perfect, but we're excited.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. City Clerk.
This is the time to address the City Council, agency, and authority on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. State law prohibits the City Council from taking action on items not on the agenda, and your matter may be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Shannon McDonald.
Good evening. I know you guys haven't heard me speak for a while, but I felt compelled to come speak because I had to thank Jason. This weekend, I just happened to see something on 40th, and it was like somebody had plowed their car into this, and it was really unstable. And I called Jason and was just adamant about getting it fixed. Like, it's unstable. When we talk about public safety, I think people have this visual of it just being police officers. I don't think that a lot of people understand that public safety is just that, public safety. That means the foundations of our buildings, the infrastructure, everything has to be done accordingly. And I went by there, and I was very impressed with what I saw. He definitely cleaned it up. There's no risk to our community, our pedestrians, or our citizens, and I really wanted to thank him for that. He's definitely the right person for what he's doing. So I wanted to just come in publicly and say that. And it's nice seeing you all.
One more thing. Tell us about your daughter.
Oh, I ended up getting a GED myself, and my oldest daughter got a GED because I was a young mother. My 18-year-old she's the first one in my family to graduate and get a high school diploma. So I'm the first one with college. She's the first one with a high school. So it's a very big deal because I am definitely breaking generational curses left and right around here. So thank you, though. I appreciate that.
Thank you. David Paul.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, good evening. like the budget. Thank you, Jason, for talking about how having to try harder made us better, and I really like that. I'm going to talk about the Justice Department report meeting I went to last week at the Cole Middle School, but one thing that drove home to me is you have to watch what you say very carefully. I'm sure, Mayor, you know that.
No,
there were a couple
I've never learned that, and I'm not going to.
There were a couple questions there that came up, and but you know, one of the things is I'm sorry about Palmdale, but we spend a lot of time kind of, you know, going back and forth with them, and a lot of people didn't like that. And when people hear, for instance, I heard you say when you adjust that thing, you know, you're going to raise my taxes. That's what I heard. When you want an adjustment of that, you want to get a bigger share of the property tax revenue. That comes up me. So that's just off the top of my head what I hear.
No,
there was the other thing.
Quite the opposite.
Okay. The other thing was that one of the things that you were on the internet is spoken about that Justice Department meeting. Like people should abandon hope and take up arms because we can't do it. And there was a lot of talk about the new police department, and I think people are hungry to get an answer on that or to know more about what goes on there. So,
what, should they abandon hope? Is that the question? That's not what I said.
Well, that was the question, yeah, whether they should take up arms and protect themselves. My main concern tonight is telling everybody about 20th West and H8. There's this big hole in the road, and I use it as kind of a chance to do better because I have to concentrate and remember that thing. And, you know, 9 out of 10 times I remember driving by it, and then that 10th time I go, oh, why can't I remember? But, you know, that's one thing. And
Jeff, would you fix the hole, for heaven's sakes? Thanks. Jeff will fix it.
I know he's writing it down. So anyway, thanks very much, and I love the things our city's doing, and I love being an ambassador for our city and talking about how great we are. So let's keep it up.
Wait a minute, David. Let me clarify one thing because I don't want people at home to think what the mayor was saying is that if you pay $100 in taxes, instead of giving us $7, we want $10.
Right.
We want the same share as neighboring cities, same demographics, same needs. So we want more of the taxes that are already being paid. So it's not an increase in taxes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right now, 93% of the taxes paid on property tax up here goes to Los Angeles. Los Angeles County, right? We get to keep 7% of it. That ain't fair. That's all I'm saying. I want a bigger share. And if the truth were known, I want it all. Fran, come on up. Well, I do. Why hide it?
You're not.
No one was accusing you of hiding
He's not hiding anything.
Maybe a little bit more. Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Chris, council members, staff, and public, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fran Sarasaris, and first of all, I want to thank your Public Works and your public building. Anyway, I want to thank Jeff's department and Jeff's department, both Jeffs, in giving us the senior center our bench for the access bus stop. But we also asked for, and we got, 2 bike racks, which is great. Thank you very much. I wanted to. I'm going to just give an opinion. I don't know if I'm allowed to at this point, as far as what you were saying about Lancaster and Palmdale and the problems that possibly that Palmdale might be having in the future or the next 5 years or so, that maybe we can be a helping hand in some way as far as their finances. And I think it's a great idea. I'm glad to hear that Lancaster is stepping up. I'm very proud to be in Lancaster. I'm getting a little choked up because it's a joy to be here. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think you just come up here and talk and say nothing, or they don't, and that you don't listen to us, but you do. I also had, when you were talking about communications on the hotels and the restaurant, well, not the hotels, but the restaurants not having the ability to communicate or use their computers to get the orders. I don't know how this would work or what. It's just an idea that hit me at that point when you mentioned it. Is would you? I guess is that I'll just put it out there. Would there be communications that the homeowner can use to be able to besides going to an email or anything to be able to communicate more closely with the city? That's just a thought. Congratulations on your new position or wherever you're going. God bless you, and I wish you the best, you and your family. I also have something to announce. I'm a nominee for a Woman of the AV for Antelope Valley. And I don't know about when, but I'm up there. And I just kind of want to let you guys know. I'm sneaking in a little booster for myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fran. Seriously, Mr. Happy? Seriously? Something tells me you weren't born with that name.
No, I wasn't. But that's what I use because that's what people remember. First of all, good evening to all who are representing us here this evening. I have 4 quick things, but I'm not going to hit on all of them because I only have the 3 minutes. The first thing is homelessness. And I'd like to know what the city's doing about it and if the city would be open to occupying or fixing or refurbishing the Toys R Us building and the other county building that sits off of Avenue J and putting the people off the streets and in there to get a contractor to come in and use those buildings to get these people off the street.
Well, I think the people that own those buildings might have some input as to what we did with them.
I mean, but if the city was to purchase it, would that help the homeless problem?
I imagine it would. But why?
Can the city or city council or somebody or budget people look at that?
But we're building Kensington now, which is going to be the most advanced homeless project out there. Why would we start putting people in warehouses?
I didn't know. I mean, with the amount of people that we have, would it be more cost effective to refurbish those than to build another building?
Well, the goal is to have less. I mean, the goal
right, that's what
behind
I'm saying. Instead of building the Kensington or whatever it is, to put it into the those other buildings that are already there.
We don't. Well, certainly this council has no desire to build homeless shelters like they had in the past that haven't been successful. What we're interested in doing is finding innovative solutions to getting people out of homeless and on a permanent basis. And that is very complex, but I think we're approaching it in a way that's going to be successful. As long as the population is stable. If it increases, then it'll overwhelm that facility. So, you know, I recognize your concern, and all I can say is because of Supervisor Barger, we're probably doing more than anybody as soon as they open. But right now, we're in a building phase.
Okay. And the other thing is for the Sheriff's Department, I'd like to know if we have a K-9 unit up here after what went on about a week and a half ago.
Can you address the council?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if...
address the council. We'll ask
okay.
him
if we have a K-9 unit up here after what went on about a week and a half ago out at 60th and M.
I would have to know what happened at 60th and M, and yes, we do have a K-9.
We had a break-in within my neighborhood, and I've talked with some people, and they said that we don't have a canine unit up here. The closest one that I was told was in East L.A. Now, I don't know if that's true. I'd like to have the Sheriff's Department verify that or put a quash on that and say that we have one up here. The helicopter was in the air for probably 40 minutes, circling around. They had the guys in the lights, and they couldn't turn around and go get them because they couldn't really find them.
There's different canine units that are out there. There's drug, there's bomb, there's all different kinds. We do have a canine unit up here.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. That's it. You know, I do think that I should. I was quoted about how I thought we should be dealing with different homeless segments of the homeless population. And I see that it's starting to generate steam that was never intended. Just so the city is clear, I do not think homelessness is a protected class. I don't think because you're homeless that you should somehow be immune from law enforcement. If you're homeless and you rob somebody, I think we should be as draconian as possible. I do not want the citizens of Lancaster being subjected to physical violence that we can avoid, that we can stop. And if that means the extreme sanction of arming people, that's what it means. I was very clear with Channel 7 that I don't think we're there yet, but I'm certainly open to the realization that that could happen. But as far as I'm concerned, a robber is a robber whether he's homeless or not. And if you rob somebody and they shoot you in the process, I'm happy about it. I know how draconian that sounds. I know how harsh that sounds. But I want it clear. Being homeless doesn't mean you don't have to follow the law in Lancaster. It may mean that down in Los Angeles. If it does, you should go to Los Angeles and stay out of here. Could it be any clearer? Does it make sense? Okay.
I agree.
Thank you. Now, we're going to adjourn, but before we do, I'm going to ask Councilman Mann to adjourn in the memory of Jack Lloyd Abney.
So on behalf of the mayor and the Lancaster City Council, we would like to adjourn in memory of Jack Lloyd Abney. Jack was, we could probably sit here for quite a long time and speak about Jack's accomplishment, but let me just give you some brief history about Jack. Longtime resident of Lancaster, he served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. In the early 50s, Jack and his wife Faye came to Lancaster. He opened up Jack's Market on the east side of Lancaster. And later on, Jack and his wife Faye opened up the Smart Shop, which was located on Lancaster Boulevard. And if you were a young lady back in that period of time, that would probably have been the place that you would have went and bought your dresses. Jack was AV Fair Director. He was active in the Kiwanis, and he was also a member of the Assistance League in Antelope Valley. He will be greatly missed and leaves behind a great legacy for his family, friends, and community.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 20.
Thank her again.
What?
Thank Brett again. Brett again. It's your last meeting.
You got to talk louder. I left my hearing aid at home.
Thank Brett again.
Thank you, Brett. We really are going to miss you. I mean, when you became city clerk, everything got brighter. It is the best way I can explain it. I mean, it's brighter. So when you replace her, don't get somebody bright. Okay? We're going to miss you.
We will miss you. Thank you.
Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 25th, 2019 at 5 p.m. Carol, my day is done and I'm coming home.